Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving right into the ultimate technology choice facing almost everyone right now. Whether you're a solo home user experimenting with code or a corporate IT decision maker managing massive enterprise systems, you're at the great infrastructure crossroads. Do you stick with traditional on-premise setups or do you migrate entirely to the cloud?
So where should your data actually live? Because despite the relentless marketing hype telling us to just move everything to the cloud, it isn't automatically the cheapest or the best choice for everyone. Sometimes it absolutely is, but making the right call requires a solid, strategic understanding of what you're actually paying for.
To figure out the right path for your specific needs, here's our agenda. First, cloud versus on-premise. Second, meet the cloud giants. Third, comparing the price tags. Fourth, choosing your best fit. And finally, the long-term strategy.
Let's start with Section 1, Cloud versus On-Premise, CapEx versus OpEx. Look, at a basic level, the cloud simply means you're renting someone else's incredibly powerful, highly managed computers over the internet, rather than buying your own. This is a massive shift. You go from a capital expenditure, or CapEx model, where you literally buy depreciating physical servers outright and deal with all the headaches of maintaining them, to an operating expenditure, or OpEx model. With OpEx, you're essentially just renting flexible capacity by the second, and you let the provider handle the hardware, the security, and the maintenance.
And your size and workload predictability really dictate your strategy here. If you're a home user or a nimble startup, you absolutely thrive on cloud agility. You get to leverage generous free tiers, you don't need upfront capital, and you can scale globally in minutes. It's a game changer. But if you're managing a corporate server with a highly predictable, constant workload all year round, well, you might actually save some serious cash by keeping things on-premise. In those scenarios, the total cost of ownership over time can drop well below those recurring monthly cloud fees.
Moving on to Section 2, Meet the Cloud Giants, the Big Three of 2026.
We are looking at a staggering $129 billion market in just the first quarter of 2026 alone. Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud Platform currently control roughly 68% of all global cloud infrastructure. AWS is still the clear heavyweight champ, capturing about 31%. Azure is right behind them at roughly 25%, and GCP is holding strong with a very solid 12%.
But hey, looking at market share alone kind of misses the real story here. While AWS is the biggest, GCP and Azure are growing at a breathtaking pace. In early 2026, AWS grew a respectable 19%, but Azure surged by 40%. And Google Cloud? They literally skyrocketed with 63% year-over-year growth. So what's driving all this? It's the massive, insatiable demand for AI infrastructure. The companies positioning themselves best for artificial intelligence right now are the ones expanding the fastest. Which brings us to Section 3, Comparing the Price Tags, Dollars, Cents, and Hidden Fees.
Okay, let's compare apples to apples. If we look at a standard on-demand virtual machine with 2 virtual CPUs and 8 gigs of RAM, AWS and Azure are practically tied at around $69 to $70 a month, but GCP often comes in cheaper, around $52. Why the gap? Well, Google automatically applies what they call sustained use discounts. Basically, if you keep a server running all month, they just automatically drop the price, no hoops to jump through. To get those massive 70% discounts on AWS or Azure, you usually have to lock yourself in and commit upfront for 1 to 3 years.
Here's the crucial takeaway though. Your actual bill is almost never just that base hourly compute rate. Cloud bills can quietly explode if you aren't paying close attention. Get this, the industry wastes over $44.5 billion annually on idle resources. Yes, that is billion with a B, entirely wasted on servers left running when literally no one is using them. Then you've got data egress fees. That's what providers charge you just to move your own data out of their network. AWS is notoriously expensive for this, though GCP actually recently reduced their egress pricing. The bottom line? Your architectural choices matter way more than the initial sticker price.
Let's jump to Section 4, Choosing your best fit, matching workloads to providers.
So, who should you actually choose? Well, you'll want AWS if you need the absolute broadest array of services. With over 240 managed services and 33 global regions, look, if a cloud concept exists, AWS probably built it first. They offer the most mature, heavily supported ecosystem on the planet. That makes them the default choice for highly customized apps, massive global scalability, and machine learning teams that really need their incredibly wide selection of GPUs through Amazon SageMaker.
On the flip side, Azure is an absolute powerhouse if you're a corporate user already living in the Microsoft ecosystem. Seriously, if you use Windows Server, Active Directory, or Microsoft 365,
The Azure Hybrid benefit can save you up to 40% on costs just by leveraging your existing licenses. Plus, they have that exclusive partnership with OpenAI, making Azure the premier destination if your enterprise wants to securely integrate GPT models right into your everyday workflows.
And then there's Google Cloud Platform, or GCP. For the home user or individual developer, GCP's always free tier is fantastic. They offer a free micro-instance indefinitely. But don't be fooled, GCP scales brilliantly for the enterprise too. It's widely considered best-in-class for data analytics with BigQuery, container orchestration with Kubernetes, and advanced AI training using their highly cost-effective, custom-built tensor processing units. They also have incredibly strong open-source support.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, the long-term strategy, future-proofing your architecture. Interestingly enough, 75% of enterprises today aren't putting all their eggs in one basket. They're actually running a multi-cloud strategy. This proves you really don't have to choose just one provider for the long haul. You could totally use AWS for your core backend, Azure for your AI integrations, and keep your highly predictable, sensitive database right there on-premise in your own physical server room.
And this ties directly into the geopolitical side of cloud computing, which is especially huge for our European viewers dealing with strict regulations like GDPR. To truly protect your data, you have to evaluate the three-layer sovereignty framework. Layer 1 is data residency. Where does the data physically sit? Layer 2 is operational separation. Who is actually running it? But Layer 3 is the tricky one, legal jurisdiction. Because of the U.S. Cloud Act, even if your data is sitting in an EU data center and operated by EU staff, if the parent company is American, they could theoretically be compelled by U.S. law to hand over that data. Understanding this is absolutely vital for true corporate data sovereignty.
Ultimately, whether you stick to your on-premise servers for those highly predictable workloads, or you fully embrace the agility and massive AI capabilities of the public cloud, remember this. Proactive architecture matters way more than a provider's brand name. The absolute best, cheapest, and most effective infrastructure is simply the one you've actively monitored, automated, and optimized to fit your exact needs.
So I want to leave you with this to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. As infrastructure costs inevitably rise and global data regulations continue to tighten, do you know who really holds the keys to your most valuable digital assets? Think about it. Thanks for joining me at the Great Infrastructure Crossroads.